𝗪𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 other people or to gain that confidence in order to do that? Where does that come from?
So, at the end of the day, when I really started diving deeper into communication and sales, I realized, man, like this dynamic, really, when you learn it, it's a dynamic that's already at play in the world. You're just now getting insight into what's being communicated, what's being sub-communicated, and all the aspects of it. So now when it's happening, you're aware. But number two, now you have tools in your tool belt that you can utilize. So the first point is this, right? I remember hearing this a long time ago. I don't know who said it. I don't know if it was in a book, but it's a normal saying, but it rings true with this particular example. They say closed mouths don't get fed. I'm sure you've heard that. Closed mouths don't get fed, meaning if you're not out there hyping yourself up, talking about you and your brand, nobody knows it. So if I can even relate this to being younger, I had a fight almost literally in high school for me to get the level of scholarship that I wanted, right? I was getting a ton of looks from, Division II schools and Division IIIs and smaller Division Is. I'm like, nah, I want looks from the big ones. So I don't know if my coach was helping me or not. I said, dude, give me their phone number. What's their addresses? I'm going to send them tape. I'm going to call them and say, hey, watch my tape. What do you think? That's how I ended up getting a scholarship to where I wanted to go, or at least one of the schools that I would consider, because I took it into my own hands. So the same thing can be said about, athletics or sales. When I go out here, I have to talk to the customers. My first 3-4 years, every day, literally, was me knocking on doors and making calls, going out there and pursuing it. Even if I was the top dog in the world for real estate, I would still be out there shining on social media, talking to people, right? Shaking hands, meeting people, because that's where this thing is. So even if you're still an athlete right now working, you need to be out there talking to agents and talking to coaches, right? I lost count, dude, in high school, even in college, sending it to professional agents and scouts, how many tapes and emails and phone calls that I sent out. It took me giving that extra effort. So the first part is, again, even if you have all the talent in the world, you can't rely on that alone, even with social media. You have to get out there and get it. Now, you brought up people might be hesitant to do it. Well, you have two options. You either do it or you don't. If you don't, your situation stays the same. If you do it, what are some possibilities? You get embarrassed, they tell you no. Or one of the other possibilities, which is just as real, is they give you a little bit of love. They pay attention. You get a scholarship there. You get an offer. They then pass your information to someone else who could use you, and it ends up going to another team or another agent. I don't know. That ball rolling has infinite trajectory to go anywhere, but you don't know unless you go. It's the same thing if we can relate it back to when we were young and we were afraid to talk to a girl at a dance. If you don't talk, you're like everybody else. You do talk to her, you might dance with her, she might become your girlfriend. I don't know. But that first possibility doesn't start until you approach and you go talk to her. It's the same thing with this. And that's such a common thread today, the fear. And I tell people, there's no magical concoction I can give you for the fear. All that is the survival mode of your mind pointing out a potential, in quotes, emotional threat, right? Because our wiring is very primitive, man. When you recognize that on a logical level, you still will get the emotion, but at least your mind, which is the most powerful tool that you have, can at least say, okay, I get this uncomfortable feeling. However, I cannot let it stop me from taking this next step, because that fear is irrational. This is a survival mechanism. I need to acknowledge it, but keep moving forward. It's just like if you've ever been in a situation like me where I've been scared, but I still respond. I still have the same fear that other people have, but I respond. Right? So the question is, you have the understanding now, what's the action you're supposed to take, and you take it. Right? Now, the difference is I wired that into me quicker by putting myself in those positions. Right? So for me in the beginning, cold calling and going door to door was pretty daunting to me, but I oversaturated myself. I did 3 hours of each, like every day. After a week or two, I enjoyed it. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was looking forward to it because I said, man, most people are actually pretty cool. Very rarely do I get people who are mad at me or angry or emotional. And for the most part, the conversations are pretty decent, and I'm getting really good at this. I'm getting people's phone numbers and emails. This is getting fun. Just like with sports, the better you got, the more fun it was.